Hey y'all, welcome back to Empowering Real Talk. It's your girl, Coach K. Thank you so much for tuning in. Real quick, make sure you have subscribed to the Upgraded Mindsets Media channel. Make sure you have followed Empowering Real Talk on your favorite streaming platform. Okay. We are back with new episodes, and I'm super excited to have this special guest with me today. And I'm going to allow her the honors of introducing herself. Hello.
Hello, Keisha. I'm Bente, and
I'm
I'm
so
so
glad
glad to
to
be
have you.
here.
And I'm so happy to have you. We had
Thank you.
some previous conversation, and I'm super excited to talk more about it. I really feel like that these are the conversations that are necessary, and I think that you are going to bring some great value and insight to that for me. So please share with us a little bit more about you and what
Sure,
you do, backstory, all that good stuff. We want to know.
sure. I'm very happy to do that. So I had a big life shift in 2019. My previous life was more about being professional, working in international organizations, always trying to be the perfect version of myself. And I think, a lot of us know how that feels, having everything under control, but not knowing who we are inside.
Yes.
So I'm 42. I have two sons. They are 8 and 9 years old, and I'm CEO and founder or co-founder of a company that works with children in kindergarten and schools, ensuring that they stay connected to themselves and that they get to know their strength, their passion, that they just get to know a deeper understanding of themselves and feeling comfortable and confident there, because this is exactly what I missed in my life. And I woke up at 37. So this was the first thing I realized after my change happened, that I really like to ensure that children all over the world, if possible, know who they are. And
My God.
yeah.
I love
For me,
it.
it was, I have a little bit tears in my eyes, because this is something that I think, is no one is really looking at this, because, once we think about peace, we think about understanding, we think about anything that happens from a place of deeper knowledge and alignment,
Oof.
starts from the very beginning. It starts actually when we are in the tummy of our moms.
Yeah. Yep.
The first relationships we have, and it doesn't matter with whom they are, we always remember the moments when people did something great to us, when they said something nice, when they helped us with something, or when they just were somehow warm with us. And this is what we try to create. So we try to bring partners into schools and kindergartens who actually approach children from a place of heart, and teach them in a way so that children get a better understanding of who they are and shape their identities, so that when they are 12 or 13 or 14, that they know in a
That
confident
critical
way
moment. Yeah, that's
where
a
they
really
are.
critical.
So
I love so many things that you touched on. But I really love the fact that you are really trying to reach the youth at what we know now is such a critical age. Years back we may not have thought about, personal development at such a young age, but now the way technology is so advanced, the way just society, and I know that we are in, two different time spheres, time zones, two continents, but
yeah,
we do see the similarities with regards to how things have advanced and how children are learning at so much of a younger age, and they're taking on things, latching on, attaching to things. And I love that you guys are making that connection to say, you know what, we see that they're in their critical learning, but we need to make sure that they're learning how to stay and be themselves instead of trying to follow societal stigmas, which I can't stand personally. So I think that I love what you do, but I also want to say that I even love more the fact that this stemmed from you making transformation within yourself. You
thank
know,
you.
you
Yeah,
touched
thank you.
on, I love when I
Wow.
get to talk to others who have experienced similar
Yeah,
transformations and have taken a hold of their life unapologetically. So kudos to you for that.
thank you so much, Kisha. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. It was quite tough, because my whole life really went a different path from one to another day. I'm so grateful for that,
Yeah.
truly. But at the time when it was happening, I didn't know what was going on,
Right.
because when you have this opening of oh my gosh, there's so much more than just what I
Yes.
created on the outside. There's so much more that drives me, that can fulfill me. But first, to understand the depth is hard, and
Understanding
we are
it.
going through these. And I like the fact that you changed in 2020 as well, or had your kind of shift, because for me it was 2019. But I think it's so great of you that you took advantage and talked about it earlier, because for me I didn't even know how to talk about it. So this is like, I think last year was the first year where I started to communicate. I created the
Really.
company, I had this idea and I felt what I like to do, but I didn't have the words to build the bridge.
Yeah.
And this is also why I became a life coach, or a leadership coach actually, but I did a life coaching certificate with Mindbelly. And I discovered, because I worked for such a long time in international organizations with leadership, and being in that same role, I thought, when I look back, seeing myself, I had this great advantage of working for these big companies, and
Right.
of course there's good things are coming with
Of
it,
course.
and you have money, but this is nothing that fulfills you towards the inside, right? And I had big functions, and I got home and I was empty, and I always thought, why is this? I have this great job, I drive this company car. But of course, when you don't see beyond, you don't know what's happening and why things are happening. And this is why I also went into companies to work with leadership teams, because I believe, you know, people understand what they have to do in leadership. They understand the strategic numbers, they understand their teams, they know how to drive them, but they forget about themselves.
Woo. The story of so many of our lives. And I I want to touch on what you said a few minutes ago about how you had all of the things that you thought, because that was what was pushed on you, the narrative that you were shown all the time. Oh, to have this great job and to, make great money and to do this and to do that. That's what's pushed on us. That's the narrative that they give us. So if we're doing that, why are we not fulfilled? Why are we not satisfied? And that was me as well. Years and years and years. It's just so crazy how we have so many similarities, because you spoke on this as far as, when you decided to become a coach, because I was always the unofficial coach. I was always the person people would come and talk to. I would always be the person to come and give the insight. I was always the go to person. But at the end of the night, I was not satisfied with my life. And I had that whole, oh, if I keep pouring into others, I'll get blessed. I'll be satisfied. I'll be fulfilled. I had like a short term fulfillment because I knew I was helping somebody. So for them to tell me thank you, yeah, I love that. I love to hear it. But I wasn't doing anything for me. Like I was doing nothing for myself.
And that's even
So,
a more important point you just pointed
yes.
out, because that's exactly how it was with me as well. And I think most of us are like that.
Yeah.
We have, you know, we are more sided towards others than that we would ever, try to understand our depths. And for me, it changed because someone from above, I think, wanted to, because I can't even explain why things happen like they are. I told you it started with a house that we were looking for at the time for 2 years, and then suddenly, I had this advertisement in the paper, and the house was looking exactly like I
Hmm.
visualized it. And this, this was the first time in my life where I thought, oh wow, how is this possible? But the thing is, I'm so grateful that it happened, because otherwise I would have never have known that there is more. And this all established out of this journey, and also feeling myself open up a much bigger understanding for my own children. I mean, and also a much bigger feel, because I always thought, I can't take time for myself because those two little ones are there and I'm just responsible. But yeah, you can only be responsible in the right sense and in a natural, loving, and aligned way
Yes.
when you feel your own depth and when you look after yourself. And I think this is something that, as you mentioned, society is also, just giving us, because this is how we approached life the last 200 years. And it's what always amazes me, it starts to change and people get together like we just now, and I love that because I have the feeling I'm not alone here. This is, we are so many already, and people wish to change. People also wish to have a different life in a sense of
Facts.
fulfillment. And also companies value that people like me are coming in to create something that lasts also, because
Right.
what happens is, especially in leadership, people take on 2 years and then they change their position because of course they are not fulfilled. They look for
Yep.
something that will give them more money, that will give them more, but actually, they think they step up the ladder, but at some point there's nothing to step up to
Yeah.
anymore because everything is reached. But then the big shock comes because it will still not help them to feel themselves. and
Right.
and I think companies realize that as well, so they take on board great people and then they stay for 2 years, and because they look for something they can't find in the company, they need to find it within themselves. And this is
Yep.
why it's so important to take people also
Woo.
out and to
Yes.
align them, and to help them find that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said that, because one thing about it is, us as coaches, I think the personal experience is what is going to trump every time. Not taken away from anybody's education. I am certified as well. And I appreciate the developmental side of, going to get the certifications. It does give us that sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
But I feel like as a coach, our life experiences are always going to help. You mentioned about, as far as being there for the kids and showing up for the kids, we as mothers, we default to that. But sometimes we're doing it from an empty cup and we're just zombieing through
Yeah.
our day, right? We can still be a supportive factor to others, just not at the expense of ourselves. And that goes for us as mothers, wives, and daughters, and things like that. We can still be that. And I think that we need to bring more awareness to understand that we can still do that. I am such a supportive person to other people, but I am a supportive person with boundaries, with the understanding that I can't help everybody. It doesn't mean that I love them any less. It doesn't mean any of that, but I'm no longer making it at the expense of me. So that requires being very meticulous on who I help and who I serve,
So true.
and
So true.
just being that person, with the transformation. I love my story because I know that our story is going to help somebody say, you know what? I relate to that and I'm tired too. And today's the day I'm going to make that change. That's a success to me. How they endure that journey is up to them. But to say it out loud, I'm tired. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not satisfied in life. I'm ready to change. That is a level of accountability that I really want all of us women to be on, so we
Yeah.
can really figure out what our journey looks like as we go into that transformation mode.
So true and so valuable what you just said as well. I feel that so deeply because this is also something that applies to everything, right? I'm
Mhm.
always talking about the companies because that's the only field I'm in right now. I'm not
Yep.
serving one-to-ones anymore because the time is limited. I still have
Yeah.
the two little boys. I have the company, but I want to make an impact there as well because I believe when we have the funnel and we see it from both sides, children know who they are, but also leadership or even adults. I'm talking about adults in common. It's it will be much more easier if all of us get that understanding and we all get there at the same time, because
Mhm.
then we evolve as society, as communities, as families, just as people who love each other.
Right.
But the beauty you just mentioned, and this is what I feel when I take people out and they come back after 4 days being out of their normal routines, without phones, without laptops, without,
Mhm.
they just feel themselves, they just sense, they understand their inner structure, and they start crying because they sit in the vastness of the desert or something. This is something, as you said, when people feel themselves and they get touched and they let go,
Yes.
this is where the magic also happens within the companies, because they understand their passion, they understand why they acted like years like that. And when companies give them the space to breathe, and this is something, I really would like to encourage anyone who's a company owner or an HR person to understand, because people always say, it's about numbers, it's about drive, it's about growing. But growing, that companies grow happens when, or become limitless, when the people who are in there have no limits and have endless power, as you just said, right? My battery is so full since I changed. And why is that? Because I feel myself and I
Yeah.
know where my balance is.
Coming from that leadership standpoint, I agree 100% because one thing about it is if you're not allowing your employees the opportunity to grow, to pivot, to feel supported, because I think that is such a critical thing that we must know. If I don't feel supported within your organization, I'm not going to be my most effective self. I'm not going to be the person that is going to get you the results that you want because mentally I'm not there to give it to you. And it definitely goes into our inner being and really being our confident selves. I love that you are making that impact your way. You have created your path of doing that for others. Not only with the children's program, but also with your other programs that you're doing because you're also walking in fulfillment for you. You're
Thank
taking your transformation and turning it into purpose and fulfillment. And I think that's awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I so much believe that great leaderships, is actually the wisdom, we had as
Mhm.
children. And this is why I think, when we change that within the children and
Yeah.
we get them on a path where they don't question themselves, or where they get disconnected or something, we can make sure that we have innovators, we have creators, we have everything that we actually need for the world. And it doesn't matter that we don't teach them numbers, that we still do that. We will still, show them how to write letters. And it's not about changing the whole system. It's just about making sure that these little kids get space to feel themselves. And why not? I mean, this
Yeah.
is something I ask myself so many times, because it would make such a great impact, and it would even create more innovation, more creation, more things that help us in this world. When I get together with them, and this is why I do the sensory immersion with them, because coaching, they expect someone who will tell them about numbers, strategic approach, or
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of emotional intelligence. Okay,
Right.
this is their objective. But what I do is really, I want them to feel. I only want them to feel, because what they do is they think they are not allowed to do. And
Yeah.
because they are good people, most of them are people who are like, we were still feeling people. We were giving our whole energy to others because
Yeah.
we wanted to make things work. But these people, for such a long time, they forgot about themselves, and
Oof.
in their strength and leaders. And I think this is something that, we need to also give them a different space than the company space, because they will not open up in their normal routines. And this is why it's so
Yeah.
important they leave everything there, like the phone, the laptop, the
Leave it
and
all. Leave it
you know
all. Leave it all. Leave everything. All of it. I'm telling you, I'm waiting on a day or a retreat where I can actually utilize that. But
yeah.
I don't have a problem with detaching. I'll tell you that much. So I wanted to ask you, like, what advice would you give to adults who do feel disconnected with their talents and their values, but they are ready to regain that? What are some beginning steps that you would recommend?
Definitely set some routines where they have time for themselves. This is the first thing I always say, take half an hour a day, or even if it's only
Yes.
15 minutes, and get into the forest or get into nature somewhere to. And it feels so awkward in the beginning. That was with me. Like, I'm in the middle of the nature park here, and because I was so detached from myself, I felt
Right.
so uncomfortable walking through the forest because I felt nothing. really nothing. But it changed, like after 2 months it changed, and I saw the trees, I saw the birds, I felt the energy in the forest. And I think if you it's about really, being constant with that, just every day 10 minutes and nothing else. Keep the phone in your car, just
Yeah.
do that, or get creative. It's also something I really tell people who, some of them might have played the guitar when they were a child and they enjoyed it. It was fun, but they don't allow themselves to do or paint or something. And
Right.
then, of course, get help. I think it's always nice. Even me, like, I never thought it's valuable to have someone, who would coach me. Like, oh no, I can do anything on my own.
Yeah.
Why should I need someone? I was in therapy for a year and I would have never done that now out of my own will. It was because I was actually forced to change.
Yeah.
But now I know I'm also working with coaches myself, because
Yeah.
it's about how we develop further, right? It's
Yeah.
about what we can learn from others. And this is also what I do every time I have a talk. And I think it would help the others to understand that we are all long life learners. No one knows
Woo!
everything,
My
right?
favorite word, a lifelong learner. I love it. I've made that transition to becoming a lifelong learner instead of thinking I knew it all, but that was just the restricted. And that was also me in protective mode too. So you're right. Us as adults showing children that we can become lifelong learners at our olden and golden ages is also going to have such a positive effect on the youth, because if they see that we're like, you know what, I'm still willing to learn, I'm still willing to listen, I'm still willing to gain perspective and insight, then the kids are going to be like, oh, well, I could do that too, So I do think that it's like a reaction that we do need to step into and
Yeah.
embrace that unapologetically, because I think it's just the way of the world. I think that's this way we need to be. So I love it. I love it. I want to ask you one final thing before we get ready to head out of here, and that's what legacy are you wanting to leave behind for your on the personal perspective, but also through your company, just overall.
I get goosebumps. It's a great question. No one asked me that before.
Mm,
But I would say trust yourself.
yeah.
Trust yourself and really keep balance with what you feel or make sure that what you feel inside reflects the life that you live.
Yes.
And always get out of your comfort zone to try to understand others with the same amount you understand yourself, or even, first of all understand yourself, of course, but make an effort to understand others as well, because we all speak different languages, we all come from a different background, and we see what's happening in the world right now. And this is also why I'm going out and I try to push this, and I get on talks, because I feel that we need to operate from a place of balance and alignment and peace in this
Yeah.
world, and it's so needed that we get there.
I agree. I agree so heartily. A great legacy to leave. So please let the listeners know where they can find you, social media details, website.
Yeah, so my website is Bente Vosteen in one word. So it's BenteVosteen, and that's the same on Instagram. They can find me. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can always drop me an email if there are any questions, and of course also schedule a call. I have like 10 to 15 minutes free calls if anyone is interested also in the Dubai experience I do in the desert. So this is something for companies. It's only open for companies for now, but if anyone has questions regarding that, they can always contact me. And with also, if someone wants to become a partner for Erlebniswiese for the children's company, I always appreciate to
I
get in
love
touch.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. And that information will be listed in the podcast description notes, guys. So definitely make sure you go visit the website, go check out more of what she's doing, find out more about her purpose and passion. It has been such a pleasure to have you here on Empowering Real Talk today. Thank you, one, for sharing your journey, but two, also sharing your passion personally and professionally. And I just wish you the best of luck in your continued endeavors.
Oh, Oh, thank you, Keisha. Best to you as well. And I'm very grateful to be here because, I think energy aligns, and
That part.
I'm so happy to see you again. So I will definitely listen into all the talks that will follow. I wish you all the best too.
Thank
And thanks
you
for having
so,
me.
so much. Y'all heard that alignment is everything, energy is everything. Make sure that you are continuing your journey with those who are supposed to be aligned with you. Do not continue to hold yourself back. Do not continue to allow negative, toxic people or behaviors to stop you from becoming the most empowering version of yourself. All right. Make sure you have subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you check me out. And if you have any questions with me and wanting to learn about activating and elevating your 4 core pillars, then you know to visit the website at upgradedmindsets.life. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Stay empowered.